Everyone, welcome to another episode of Pulling Threads. Today, we have one of my very favorite people in the whole world, friend and home organizer, Kirsten Fisher. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're going to talk today about entrepreneurship, being a female entrepreneur, riding any wave.
Yes.
We're also going to talk about home organization and how it affects our mental health when we aren't organized or are living in clutter. I am excited to get started. And if you don't mind, Kirsten, I want to talk about how you started this journey. How did you get on the path to home organization? And is this where you saw yourself going?
It's not where I saw myself going at all. Before I started my business 10 years ago, I worked in sports marketing. I spent 20 years working in professional tennis on the tournament side and on the global women's side at the WTA. And it's funny because when I started feeling myself burn out as I got married and had a family, the idea of traveling the world became less glamorous and a lot more just hard work to leave your family. Would say to me, why don't you start your own business? And everybody that I knew in that industry that started their own business did the exact same thing I did, but they were like their own business and they would contract out. And I thought the only thing worse than doing what I'm doing is doing it without my steady paycheck, 401k, and my health insurance. So
Right.
didn't occur to me that I would start my own business. And so when I did feel very burnt out and left for another job in marketing, it was like less than a year and I was totally burnt out again. And I was like, what's going on? I don't understand. Like, I've got this new job and why do I still feel like this? I was just going to take 6 months off, figure my life out. At the time, I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I thought I just have to have something very close to home. And I really was just going to look for another corporate job. And then I do what I do when I'm stressed is I organize my house.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided maybe I need to do something completely different. Maybe I need to start something different. I was already planning to take 6 months off and I thought I'm just going to jump in and try it. It really took off quickly. I was getting clients and getting busy. And from there, I never looked back.
That's awesome. You inspired yourself.
That felt great. Yeah.
You were your perfect client, which is ideal when you start a business.
Yeah. At the time that I started the business, and then when I joined an association and found out more about it, I realized that most organizers 10 years ago, it's very different now, but most organizers at the time were like a coach at your house and they would help you learn how to be more organized. Where I was coming from as a busy working mom, I didn't want to be someone's coach. I just wanted to go in and take care of it for them. I felt like there's so much burden on moms. And now the extra burden of having to learn how to be more organized, I just wanted to take burden away from people. And so that was really the model I started on from the beginning. Minimal involvement from the clients, get it done for you and take care of it.
I love that. I never really thought about that before, but you're right. It's a whole different experience having someone teach you how to do it versus someone just doing it.
Yes, exactly. It's absolutely what I love because when people realize and go through the process, they don't have to physically do the organizing to get all the benefits from it. So
Yeah.
that's what I like.
So I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, they're getting ready to do something and they say there are two things people think. Either, oh, someone's already doing that, so there's no point. Or no one's ever done that. So they question whether it would work. What you did, it sounds like, was come in and saying, I'm going to do something that's along the same lines as what other people are doing, but put a different spin on it. Did you have expanders or mentors or people who were already doing this that you could model any parts of your business after?
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because I've had both of those experiences. When I first started this organizing business, I didn't know very many organizers. I thought back like, oh, I have a friend that mentioned an organizer once and I grilled her. What was the organizer doing? How did she work with you? At the time, my mom said, oh, my friend's daughter is an organizer. And she introduced me. That was the person who said, here's our national association. You should join that. And that's where I met lots of other people and say like, oh, okay. These are all the different ways you can do it. But I think it's an important point. And particularly as women, we feel like, okay, that's been done. But I think we have to look at how would we do it differently And we do
Mhm.
this all the time. Like nobody does it exactly the way you do it. So you have to just jump in there and say like, okay, does the market want this thing that I'm going to do a little bit differently and put my own spin on it? When you realize no one's doing it, is there no need for it? That's when you can do some kind of like testing and figuring it out. Because on the opposite side, I had started a business where I was doing camp organizing, like maybe 5 or 6 years into the organizing business. It was my own pain point, right? I hate signing my kids up for camp. It's like a full-time job. It's the worst thing ever. And how do we fix it? Um, in concept, it was amazing. Like, how could you have a way that would fix it and you could just do it online and share it with your friends and they could jump in on your camps? That's when you realize, okay, the reason that's not getting done is because when we were doing it in practice, there were so many barriers to it. But you don't know until you start and you try. And I don't think of all the big companies that have started, those people, they didn't say like, well, it's never been done before, no one's ever stayed in somebody else's house on vacation. No one's ever jumped into a stranger's before. Let's not try it. They were like, let's just plunge ahead and try anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are so many things that we could give examples of. If someone told us 5 years ago that people were renting out their car, like a rent car company like Turo, no one's going to do that.
Yeah.
Or renting out Airbnbs. Every business model that is just part of our life now, at one point, someone would have thought that's a crazy idea.
Yes.
Love that. Because I think that people do hold themselves back when they think no one's doing it for a reason or that'll never work. But also, as an entrepreneur, we have to face the fact that not everything is going to work.
Yeah.
I love this example of the camp for you. It seemed like a great idea to me when you told me about it, but you don't know until you really get going on something.
Yeah. And you can't let those things, and there's lots of things that you try within your business that you say like, okay, what if we offered this? And
Yeah.
it turned out nobody did want that. Or if we offered, turns out that those people are not good at doing that. Those little mini failures that happen all the time. You can't let those undermine your confidence in the big picture of what you're doing, or even your confidence in who you are. These are just things you have to try and fail and try.
Do you think that there is something about your earlier life that made you less risk averse in that way? Or is it something you had to work through? Or is it the way you've always been?
No, I'm super risk averse. Which is why I did the same job first. Yeah, my first job I had for 8 years. My second job I had for 9 years. I do not jump in and try new things. I reached a boiling point where I just couldn't do something, and it was just in taking time off. The scariest thing I ever did was just like, hey, I wasn't leaving for another job.
Yeah.
But I see the value, having done it, I see the value in like when you're stuck in the things you're doing, it's hard to be creative or see something different. Hard to come up with an idea when you're still doing the thing that makes you unhappy. I see the value in taking the risk.
Yeah.
But I've never been a risk taker.
Yeah. It's hard to put yourself out there and not know. You have to share ideas with people. This is one of my biggest challenges, to share the ideas I have with people, and I'm excited about them. There's always the risk that it's not going to work out or it's not going to be a good idea. And then people are like, you're like, oh, what are they going to think? They're going to think I didn't get it off the ground or I didn't do whatever it was. But as we get older, I care less. I'm becoming less risk averse because I care less about what other people think and more about trying new things and having success eventually, understanding not everything is going to work.
The older we get, the more we realize that no one else is thinking about our successes or failures.
That is such a great point. We are we're the only one, we're caring for ourselves, we're caring for, and no one else has time to worry about what we are or are not doing. When you were on this journey, I know you've taken a master class or two, because you said that you did have some mentors that you found in but I believe you've also taken some business tech classes. Has that been helpful?
I think one thing that has always come naturally to me is I've always had a confidence in what I was doing and I would try something. So I think that thing that often holds people back, especially now as I'm a more experienced organizer and talk to new organizers and have had people that I've mentored, is there's a fear that you don't have the credibility that you need. And that is one thing. Like I've always jumped in with like, when I started organizing, I was like, I want to be a premium organizer. I wasn't afraid to charge what I felt I was worth. You don't have to be the top person who has ever done this in the world. You have to be better than the person you're trying to help. You're trying to help people in their strength. Whatever it is you do, it's your strength. It's not the person you're trying to help. It's not their strength. And so it doesn't have to be organizing. It's anything, right? And so you just have to know more than the person you're helping so that you can help them get to a different spot. And so I think that has helped. But I think as women, we tend to want to know everything about something before we start doing it. I think we have to get out of that mindset because you're never going to know anything. And even when you know everything, you won't think you do. Makes 100%. You like a curious person that knows a lot of things is because you're constantly trying to know a little bit more about it. So the things that have helped are finding the right program and the right thing for me. I was always hesitant to have like a specific business coach because I was like, well, but it's so specific to what I'm doing and will they know? And now hindsight, I look back and I think, yes, they would have been able to help me and they would have known. But at the time I was like, I don't know. And then I was about 5 years in, I did a Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program, which is a fantastic program for entrepreneurs. It's almost like a mini MBA where you get help, and it's sponsored by Goldman Sachs. So it can be free of cost, get amazing business mentors and great education that's done. There's an online version and there's lots of local versions, but it's like primarily done through Babson College. And it was great. It was really helpful. And it got me to see a lot of things that could be like next steps. And how do you open your mind to this? So it can be really good. And then just people in your industry can really help too, because we have to stop thinking of anyone else that does what we do as competitors and think about, okay, the people that we do the same thing as, they know our struggles. They know how to be successful. Maybe you look at people outside your market if that makes you feel more comfortable, or you look at people that have a slightly different approach to what you do. And you can actually lift each other all up by I do a lot of that in intra-industry discussions with people that are also organizers.
That's great. I love that this idea. Like, we don't need to see our competitors as enemy. They can be collaborators. They can be inspiration. They do have all your same struggle. And so you said you started your business through the pandemic.
Yes.
A recession kind of, and all kinds of. This past year, we're in Florida and we're really impacted by the hurricanes. You have pivoted to help people through post-hurricane stuff while maintaining the business and customers you already had. And now I feel like the economy there's like another period of uncertainty. People don't know what's coming. So give us some examples of ways that you pivoted and how you approach these uncertain times. Like during COVID, were you able to even go in people's houses? And what did you do to help get through that?
Yeah. COVID taught me so much about flexibility. We were constantly figuring out what we could and couldn't do. We completely shut down for a while and then had to figure out. And it was a real sense for me at that point. It wasn't just me, and I had employees who relied on the business for feeding their family and paying their rent. And so how do we make the best choices so that not just I could get through it, but how could everybody get through it? And I think it was, obviously during that peak crisis time, there was a lot of help for different businesses and you reached out to other people who were going through the same thing. It was probably after when we were getting back to work that I realized the most flexibility. I'm super type A, very control centered. Having to say to a client, I only have 2 organizers to show up when they were expecting 3 killed me. I was like, I can't make those kind of changes. How could we won't finish with all these things. When you are forced to, you realize we all adapt, we all adjust. People recognize when you're doing the next right thing. I can't do it today, but we're going to reschedule this and come back. We're going to make sure that what we do is complete, but we didn't get to start project B that we were going to do. You realize how you can do the right thing, adjust for your clients, and it'll still work.
Yeah, it all works itself out.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. You always have, I think, as a small business owner and an entrepreneur, you've always got to be ready to pivot.
Yeah. And there's always going to be something new. Even though the hurricanes in the Tampa Bay area are the ones that hit this year, almost every year I've been in business, we've had to have some sort of, that we think that the hurricane's coming, and for 4 days, no one wants to get organized because they need to put plywood on their windows. It's like, okay, everybody canceled. And my staff, they have to go prepare their homes. And so you realize you make a lot of decisions about much bigger things than organization, but safety. So those are the joys of living in Florida. But if you weren't in Florida, it'd be something else. Other
Right.
organizers have snow days. They have to figure, okay, is it safe for my clients to drive in this storm? There's always something, right? So you just have to figure those things out.
Yeah, I agree. There's always something. But I think sometimes people go into a small business, especially when they're employees, with like rose-colored glasses on.
Yeah.
And those are lessons that you have to just learn as you go.
Mm-hmm.
They can be painful. What do you think the hardest lesson, it could be related to that or unrelated, that you've learned? Like as a female entrepreneur, what would you say has been the hardest lesson?
It's interesting because I went from a very male-dominated corporate business. I was in sports. I left and then started a business. Organizing is more female-dominated than sports is male-dominated. Now there's a lot more parity, but there are very few men working in home organizing. And so in my inner circle, there's so much empowerment. There's so much learning because you're learning from peers that look like you. You're learning from peers that have been successful and have done amazing things. And no one's telling you that, you can't do it because you're a woman, because they're all women. So I think that it's been like a wonderful eye-opening thing about being empowered to do that. But I think the biggest thing to learn is just like to be able to trust yourself and to trust what you're doing and not minimize your efforts because you start out as a solopreneur or because you're doing something seen as more traditional. You need to follow your heart in terms of the things you love, because it'll be hard. When it gets hard, you better be doing something you love, because if you're just doing something you think is going to make money or you think is the right thing to do, it's not going to get you through hard days.
That is so true. Because there are always going to be hard times. There are always going to be things that come up. Pursuing your passion is super important, and being in alignment with whatever you're doing.
And thinking about what are your strengths? What are you good at? There's always going to be some things that you're not comfortable doing and you're not great at. You either figure out how you can do it the best way you can do it, or you get to a place where you can delegate it. If you still go back to where your strengths are, then I think that helps you. An example of that is my strengths are in organizing, creating processes that work. My strengths are not in having easy, casual networking conversations. That's very painful for me and necessary as a small business owner, because I can go back to my processes and go back to my things that I'm strong at. And that's the core of my business. I can venture out and do those things that are uncomfortable and then come back to what's comfortable again.
Oh, that's great. That's really good to remember. And I think for female entrepreneurs in general, what do you think is really good advice for them? I feel like there's never been a better time to be a female entrepreneur and to be an entrepreneur in general. In addition to knowing your strengths and weaknesses, what do you think is the best advice you could give someone starting out?
Find your resources. When you start a business, you feel very alone in what you're doing. And in every community, there's so many resources for small businesses. This country's literally run on small business. And so when you find, there'll be some places where you can rely on experts that can help in this or that, or something you maybe don't know. You can find peers that, can help lift you up. You can find networking groups. You can find people so finding all those resources and taking the time to go and explore them and meet people in them can help you feel a lot less alone.
Yes.
I think knowing that you're going to feel probably the most uncertain, and you'll have constant feelings of like, am I doing this right? Is it going to work out? But you also feel incredibly empowered by what you're doing. There's all these different steps. When you first get your website going, you're so proud. You have your first 5 clients and you get that first call that says, Mrs. Smith recommended you because she said you're amazing. You're like, oh my goodness, people are referring me. Like there's so many steps along the way that are very empowering, and you realize like, okay, yes, I can do that. So I just think you're not gonna know until you try, but so you can know that there's gonna be a lot of that good comes from it, and find your circle of people that can help lift you up. And if you're not finding it, then make it, because I did that, and I went to a few different traditional networking, and like I said, I hate it. But also it was every week at 7 in the morning on a Tuesday, and I had little kids at home and I couldn't be there. So I said, certainly I'm not the only one with this issue. What if I asked 5 women that I know that own a business, and they asked a few women that they know, and we met once a month, and we didn't
Yeah.
start every meeting by like, hi, this is my name and this is what I do, because guess what? I can remember you because I see you every month.
No, I love that. And as moms too, like that's
Mhm.
part the biggest issue. When you are an entrepreneur, you're always working. If you're never without your business, and you're with our phones the way things are now, we're never free from managing the business. And then we also are never free of our family responsibilities. Nobody else is coming to be moms.
Right.
So that, I think having support in that area alone, especially for women with young children, like you were when you started, it's really important to have camaraderie, support, just someone saying, oh, yeah, I've had the same experience. That on top of the imposter syndrome and the perfectionism, it's a lot.
Yes. And it's great to have people to talk it through, and just to know like, oh, okay, everyone feels this way. It's not just me. You recognize I just got to power through this one.
Yes. And you get to celebrate your wins with people too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your wins seem really small to anyone else,
Yes.
but for someone doing something similar to you,
Yes.
like getting the first podcast episode,
Yes.
for most people, no big deal.
Right. Yeah. If you
But
have,
someone
if you have
doing it,
Yeah, if you're a friend group or your partner, if they have a more traditional corporate experience, they might not get it when you're like, my first customer paid an invoice through this new software and it worked. They might be, okay, big deal. And you're like, no, this is a big win.
yes, I signed up a new coaching client yesterday and I was like, good job.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So great advice. Find your support group in your industry too, or in whatever you're doing. Well, let's shift gears a little bit because I want to definitely talk about mental health and home organization. I think everyone knows about the celebrities who are out there, the minimalists, and all the people who are doing this on TV. And we see the person react and be like, oh my God. But I can attest to the relief of my home organized by you and your team. I think our first project was a garage. Pulling in the garage every day and seeing it clean and organized and knowing where everything was felt incredible. Now my whole house is done. This house, you guys came in and unpacked me. It was incredible. What are the emotional shifts or the mental shifts that you see in your clients when your work is done and you've helped them?
Yeah. I think when we first meet clients, they often call because they're overwhelmed. There's so much coming at us in our exterior life, and to come home and not be able to make an escape, to come home and feel like, okay, here's more overwhelm, here's more anxiety. It's really difficult to not have any escape from it. When people call us, they are very overwhelmed. They often feel really nervous. People feel embarrassed, and we always say, like, literally every home I walk into, people feel like, okay, it's the worst house you've ever seen. And then I always say, these are houses I'm walking into every day. You always think like everybody's house is perfect and mine's the one that's the problem. But like so many people have issues with getting their clutter under control that you're definitely not alone. So what we try to do is really put people at ease. First of all, you're not alone. And second, let them know we're going to make this easier for you so you can go through the process. And then how people feel afterwards is they talk about feeling lighter, just physically lighter, like there's less demand on you, and kind of eliminating the stress they feel when they come in the home. really people talk about they feel like they have more time back, because if you think about the amount of time you spend looking for something or digging through something or not knowing, getting time back, getting money back because you're not buying things because you don't know what you have, you're using the things you have. All of these things kind of like make you feel more in control of your life and more able to focus on the things that you care about, because getting it under control isn't what you care about. Being in a relaxed environment, being in a place where you can find what you want, that's what you care about.
Yes, 100%. And I can attest to the overwhelmed feeling, even though we've organized. I think it had been maybe a year and a half since you had been here, and you came recently and helped do a touch up of my closet, which was more than a touch up. It was a purge, which I had. And my whole life changed and my whole wardrobe had changed, but I still had all the old stuff. I felt overwhelmed with the idea of doing it myself, but even with the idea of you guys coming, knowing how it feels after, because I had my house before, I kept telling myself, once they're done, it's going to feel amazing. It's overwhelming to think about going through it, because it is, when it's a closet, like I have 2 closets, so it's a lot of stuff. And then there's the emotional impact of purging, which always ends up feeling really good for me. But I always anticipate that it's going to be hard, or so that anticipation is like, and the relief after is incredible. So I'm going to try to put some pictures of my closet now versus before.
Right.
So everyone can see what I'm talking about. I had reached a point of shame with the closet because there was no more space. I have these beautifully organized systems, but I have let it get out of control and unorganized. And now I'm just piling things in there. Well, you guys came up with a really great program, the membership program, which I think is genius and another huge relief, because I always know it's there. Like, so once you've organized people, you offer a membership and you'll come back in and do spot organization. So talk about that.
Yeah, I came to that over time, because what I realized is we would set up a system for a client in one space, and then they would have us come back. I would see the door to the space we had organized be shut. And some clients would come in, but still, it's amazing. But so much about organization is about your time in life too. We really focus on busy families and busy moms. I always say to them, you're not going to be any less busy. We're going to set up a system and it's going to be easier for you to follow and find what you need. But there's going to be certain spaces, a garage is a big one. Pantry's a big one. Closet can be a big one if you're like a shopper and you love to implement new clothes. So those are spaces where you're going to continue to bring stuff in. And so even though we've gone through and we've edited and we figured out what you want, you're going to need a reset. People were feeling shame, like it should look exactly the way you left it forevermore. And that's not true at my house. I'm going through and saying, oh, oops, that closet there, that's a little bit out of control. So let's just go in. So it's always a process. It's a whole lot easier once you set up the systems. Can take multiple days to do a whole home, but when we come for the membership in one day, we can refresh the entire thing. Yeah, it's an ongoing process. And so we just tried to eliminate that shame and that feeling of like, it's not going to stay forever. Does it need to? We're going to make such a big improvement, and then we can just keep coming and refreshing it.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference. I can tell you now, not only do I have zero shame, zero stress, it's easy because we got rid of so much stuff. Now it's easy to keep it organized, but it also looks pretty. Like, so when I walk in, it's like there is a vase of flowers on the counter when I walk into my closet and I see all my shoes and everything's color coordinated. It actually brings me joy, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
A huge.
It's how you want when you walk into your house.
Yeah.
It's a relaxing Zen place for me to be.
So not only is it easy and convenient, but it feels good. That's what you said. And that's what I feel. Even in the pantry, it feels good. Like, what area of a home do you think tends to be the most difficult, like for emotional clutter?
So there's a few places, obviously memorabilia. Anytime we're going through memorabilia, and sometimes memorabilia will sneak up in a place where, it's like, this isn't my memorabilia closet, but this is where you come across something. And that's where people will get emotional about telling a story about why they want to keep something and where it should be. A lot of times memorabilia will pop up in closets. And so that's when you weren't expecting it because you were like, oh, this is my linen closet. But then you're like, oh, wait, here's some stuff. The other place that people don't expect it is their actual like bedroom closet. And aside from the memorabilia, a lot of it gets wrapped up in guilt of like this thing was really expensive or I didn't end up wearing it, and so there's a lot of feelings that we can feel even around our own money that we spend, but of like, I should keep it there because I spent a lot of money, even though I'm not wearing it anymore. And so we work through a lot of that, talking through the shoulds and the fact that you're not creating value by having it hang there. We just have to forgive ourselves. I used to do this all the time. I'd walk in and I think I always wear the same boring clothes. So I'd go out and I'd be like, this doesn't look like me at all. I'm going to buy this. And then I get home and be like, there's a reason that I don't wear things that don't look like me. I don't feel comfortable in them. I'm never wearing this. And the other place that closets will get to us and make people feel bad is size issues. And so many clients will say, okay, I'm at a bigger weight than I thought I would like to be. And here are my skinny clothes, or the opposite. I've lost a lot of weight, but if I gain weight back, I don't want to have to buy new clothes. So my philosophy on that is I don't want to waste anyone's money, but I also don't want you to walk into a closet where the things hanging in the closet make you feel bad about yourself. And so whether that's the memory of the person you used to be, or whether that's a fear of gaining weight, all of those things, you don't need that emotional baggage every time you walk into the closet. You should be able to pull out a shirt and think, I look amazing in this shirt, whatever my size is. This makes me look great. Feel good in this. Makes me feel good to wear this. And so a lot of times what we'll say is like, let's at least remove the things. We can keep them if you really, really are afraid of having to have it again, but let's get it out of your everyday experience.
I think that is so true and valid and important.
Mm-hmm.
If something brings you any distress, it shouldn't be hanging in your closet.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, do you follow any rules, or do you have your clients follow any rules, like if you haven't worn it in a year, we're going to get rid of it? It doesn't work for me.
A lot of times we try to find more creative questions. I love the concept of if you haven't worn it in a year because it gives you permission to let go of things. We're always trying to find, by asking the questions that we do, giving you permission so you feel good about your decision, whether you decide to keep it or get rid of it. We want you to feel good about it. We try to see more fun things like, if you ran into an ex on the street, would you be happy you were wearing that? If you were going to buy it today, would you stand in line for it? That kind of stuff.
I like that. Sounds
It
good.
shouldn't just be like, well, I still wear it. I mean, we all wear stuff that we know is not our best, but we wear it because it's there. So you're like, okay, maybe we should remove it so that we're wearing the stuff that we know is the stuff that makes us feel our best.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do you think, or how can decluttering become a form of emotional self-care?
I think it's really important because the people we work with the most, and we work with lots of different kinds of people, but the people that are really my why and the reason I started this is moms. They're people like me. The burden of maintaining our entire family, the house, the family, all the things is on us. And it's not fair, but it's not changing anytime soon. So by going through this process, you really are taking care of yourself because you're taking care of your future self every time you're having to manage all the stuff. I always say this to clients, it's not my job to make you get rid of stuff, and I have zero skin in the game about whether or not you do. However, I will tell you it is easier to organize less stuff than it is to organize more stuff. It's easier to maintain less stuff than it is to maintain more stuff. So make sure that the stuff you have around you is really are the things you need, love, and want to have around you all the time. And then at least the work you put into maintaining it is worth it. That's what I think is is such good self-care because you're really looking out for creating more time, more energy, more space for the things that are more important to you. And whether that means you get to carve out time to go do something for yourself, or you get to carve out time to spend with your family instead of moving all the stuff around or doing all the extra laundry because we have all this extra stuff. I'm hearing that actually now from a lot of my clients moving back into their homes after
Right.
they completely flooded. I've had at least 10 clients say to me in the last month, I realized how much less I can live with.
Yeah.
Had either their stuff got ruined or they're in a small rental and all their stuff's in storage. But
Yep.
they realize they don't need any of that stuff.
Right.
They've been living for 6 months without it. And now they're like, you know what? I don't even want it back anymore. I only want to bring back the stuff that I really need.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I didn't need most of the things that I had when we went through the divorce. We moved out of the house and put stuff in a massive storage unit. I cleaned it out in November of this past year because the prices went up, full of things from our original house, all things that I made the decision to take and keep. And 3/4 of it went to donation in November. 2 years later, I paid for 2 years of a storage unit for stuff that I didn't need. I feel so much more free now that all of that stuff is gone. Like I never needed it. I think living with less. When I look at my house, because you guys have organized every space, if I'm going to buy something now, I think to myself, where am I going to put that? If there isn't space for it, do I really need it? And is there something I can get rid of? Because it's going to have to go somewhere. If there isn't room for it, do I really need it? And I think that's definitely a new way of thinking for me.
Yeah. And you're not the only client that it's funny. Clients will tell me like, I hear you sitting on my shoulder when I'm at the store. Like, where do you need this? I always remember when my kids were very little, this was before I started an organizing business, but I still had the thought process. We were at their preschool classroom and the teacher was showing us their giant Jenga, like giant Jenga. And
Right.
it's so great. We love giant Jenga. The kids love playing with it so much. And I'll tell you where I got it so you can buy it for your house. The very first thought was, why would I want giant Jenga in my house? Giant Jenga's at school. That's where we play giant Jenga. Where it lives.
Right. Because I don't have a storage place for giant Jenga. You know what I've had in my old house. We had stuff everywhere. I had giant Jenga. I actually saw a giant set of Yahtzee dice the other day. And I thought we play Yahtzee a lot. And I was like, oh my God, backyard Yahtzee. And then I was like, where am I going to keep 5 giant dice? Like, can we need that? Or can we just keep playing Yahtzee at the table?
You're right.
Like, I don't want to store giant Yahtzee, even though it might be fun, but we probably will never play. Yeah, it's a definite mindset shift, but it's been very healthy for me. Keeping the house clean and clutter-free and organized is emotional self-care for me. So much so that when things get out of, I will find myself stuck in other parts of my life. I become almost frozen. And I'm like, why am I stuck? Oh, my bedroom's not. I've got a pile of clothes. It sounds crazy, but I need everything to be in place so I can do things.
Well, it's true. You can get stuck in a couple of different ways from having a lot going on in your house and a lot of clutter in your house. One, because that clutter takes up mental space and we need all of our mental space. And the more we get older, the more we realize that we need all the mental space because we're losing a lot of mental space.
Yes.
And so removing that allows you to be more creative, to think more freely, to not be tightened up by frustration. How are we at our most fulfilling and creative selves if we're all tightened up? Then there's the time factor. How do you have time to do the things you need to when you're managing all this stuff? When you realize, oh, now I have time to strategize. I have time to be creative. I have time to think through something.
Yes, I agree. It's so important. It's just so freeing for me. I want to leave our listeners with some practical tips and steps. I know you have lots of them, but what are things people can do on their own? Not everyone has the resources to hire organizers right now. What are some of your favorite tips to give to people who want to declutter, organize? on their own without making the mistake of buying a bunch of organization things that they may not really need or use.
Yes. Yeah. Your first step does not need to be shopping. You shouldn't be shopping.
Right.
One thing now, and I'll say I always have a hard time with this because my instinct and my joy comes from helping people do it. However, there are some things that everybody can do. One thing that I like giving as an example is to put a letting go bin in some key places in your house to practice letting go. So put one in your closet, your playroom, or your kids' bedrooms, and anywhere else where you feel like sometimes I look and see things that I want. So sometimes, then when you're getting ready in the morning and you're like, oh God, I really don't like this blouse. Instead of putting it back on the hanger and hanging it up, just throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything with it until it fills up once a month, or bring it to your local charity to donate. It's almost zero effort.
That is a great idea. I'm going to do that, especially in my closet.
It's,
Because I still do that. Or I'll buy something and it's not returnable, but I'm like, no, I'm never wearing that again. It's too short or uncomfortable.
Some things you don't realize until you've had it on all day and you're like, oh, that felt great in the dressing room, but that felt terrible when I was sitting at my desk.
So the minute after you've worn it for a day, I'm never wearing this again.
Yes.
But I have one thing in particular that just happened. I'm never wearing it again.
Yeah.
Ever.
Practice those things with your kids and say to them, hey, when you put this on, if you don't like it. And I think the other thing, I was just talking through this with a client the other day, saying, have those discussions with your kids, particularly your daughters. If I buy you something and you don't like it, just let me know. Like, there's a certain age where, of course, they're going to let you know. But there's also a certain age where they're like, no, I'll just put that in my drawer and I won't ever buy it, But then it's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings if we buy something that it's not the right color or the right size or fit. Let's just return it. Tell me, and we return it. No big deal.
Right.
So sharing the principles with your family.
And also throw something. If you pull something out of the closet and it doesn't fit, throw it in the letting go. And otherwise, I'm going to have to go through the whole closet at some point and do a massive purge. If you know it doesn't fit anymore, just throw it in there.
Yeah. And if you do want to tackle a bigger like a bigger project or closet, I would start out with a smaller closet so you can finish it on one day. Process wise, you empty the entire space, pull every single thing out and put everything into categories. Once it's in a category, look at it. Don't start giving things away as you pull them out. Just like look at all the things you have in a category, because you'll realize like, oh, I didn't realize I had 3 of those or 4 of those. And so, and then you can get rid of what you don't want anymore and then figure out like, okay, how do I want this set up by category so that everything has a home? And that's the key thing for keeping things organized, is that everything have a home and everybody's silverware drawer is organized. I've never been in a house, no matter how disorganized, that their silverware drawer wasn't organized. And it's just because everything has a very specific home and you take it out of the dishwasher and put it away. So if you think of your entire house as how do I set it all up like a silverware drawer, then it stays organized pretty easily.
I love that. Yes. And I love when your girls come and they organize. They always put things in categories for me before I go through it and decide what to keep and what to get rid of. And it's incredibly helpful. So yeah, if someone's doing it on their own, that's a really great advice.
Yeah.
To just separate everything.
Yeah. It eliminates the overwhelm, because when you walk into your closet and you're like, there's so much, you're overwhelmed, right? But if you walk in your closet and you're like, okay, I'm just going to look at black t-shirts.
I was going to say black t-shirts, because we all have a black t-shirt. We see one. Why do we do that? Every time I see one, I'm like, I want that. And I'm like, no.
Yes. Everyone has their...
Well, no, it's going to be in the lit, on the hanger thing. And I'm going to be looking. And I'm gonna be like, why does she have 5 of these? I never wear black t-shirts, but I still buy them. So your team of professionals has been absolutely amazing and so helpful for me. Some of them I consider like family, because they went through some tough transitions in our life multiple times as we kind of got into while we were on our journey to our health.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing with all of them and with you, of course. Anything else that you want to share before we say goodbye?
I would just say, don't be afraid to try something with organizing, even in your house or your business. Don't be afraid to call for help if you need it. Also in both.
Great advice. Thank you so much. This has been really great. I've learned a few new things since we've been talking.
Excellent.
And thank you for everyone listening. Please subscribe and follow. I will attach information to Kirsten's business. So if you are in
Thank you.
Central Florida, in the Tampa Bay area, you can find information about her services there. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kirsten.
Thanks so much.